Hello friends, this is Caly. Thanks so much for joining me today for a Slimline rainbow card. I'm using the Rainbow Whimsy Dynamics today, and I'm going to die cut them in white so that I can color them by hand. I'm doing it this way because I'd rather not cut so many out of different colored cardstocks and then have a bunch of extra strips that I can't really create a traditional rainbow out of. So now I'm coloring my rainbows with some Copic markers. The red was R24, the yellow or orange is Y17, the green is G14, the blue is B14, and then finally the purple color is V06. There's no blending involved, so it's just one marker per band, and we're just going to saturate each band with that particular color to create the 3 rainbows that I'm using for today's card. Alright, so once I've got everything colored, I've got these 1-inch strips here that I'm going to add some glue to and then use it to keep my bands together to form each rainbow. I'm going to do this with all 3 rainbows and then put a block over it just to help it stay in place while it dries, and then move on to the background portion of my card. Okay, so I've got a blank white panel here that's cut to 4 inches by 8.5 inches. I'm just laying out my cloud edges dynamics so that I can figure out exactly where I want my rainbows to sit and make sure that everything is laid out perfectly before I decide to cut those clouds using white cardstock. After laying out all of my white clouds, I make sure that there aren't any gaps in the cardstock between each layer of clouds. And now I'm going to lay out my clouds one more time using dies in different places, and I'm going to die cut these next layer of clouds using vellum. I do this because I like the transparency of the vellum, and it just gives the card a lot more interest and texture. Now that all of the layers are in place, we're going to take all of those white layers and add some color to the bottom of each so that there's color and definition between each of the layers of the clouds. I'm going to start with the very bottom layer, and then I'm going to use Mermaid Lagoon Distress Oxide ink and just blend really lightly to get a soft blend of color from the bottom of the cardstock towards the top, leaving it white at the top. So I'm going to do that with all 3 panels of clouds. And then for the very top layer, it's going to be on the full background. So I'm just going to ink blend starting halfway up the card and just going up again, creating a soft blend, and then leaving white at the very top. All right, before we start adhering everything down, I want to add my sentiment. I'm using the Rainbow Greetings sentiment set, and I am stamping this in black at the very bottom of the card. Alright, so once the sentiment is in place, we're going to start adhering everything to that back panel. If you have some press and seal, now would be a great time to use it. I just have not ever gotten it before, and I keep reminding myself to get it when I'm at the store and I forget. Anyway, that would have been really helpful for this particular card. Since I used the MISTI for my sentiment, I know that it's straight, so I went ahead and lined that up with the bottom of my back panel. And now I'm just working my way up from the very bottom, tucking in each layer as I go. You can do this from the top, but I found that it was easiest to line up the sentiment first. So once everything is adhered to my back panel, it's kind of floppy, but I go ahead and I butt that bottom part up to the top first, because again, I know that that's perfectly straight, and I'm just going to trim off the edges so that my card panel here is going to be 3 3/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches so that it perfectly mats a 4 by 8.5 card. So now you can see all of those layers that are only adhered down by the very bottoms. We're going to leave it floppy like that so we can make sure that we can tuck in those rainbows behind each white panel without any problems. I'm adding dry adhesive to the back of each rainbow and then tucking them in behind the white panels. And once the rainbows are in place, I can use some liquid adhesive and adhere all of those layers down, first behind the rainbows to make sure that they are secured in place, and then in front of the rainbows behind the white clouds to make sure that those are in place and secure as well. There's a lot of white space from those white clouds, so I thought I would fill those up by embellishing my card with some white jewels. I like to figure out the placement first before I go adding dots of adhesive all over my card. So after I know that I've got all of my jewels down where I want them, I'm just going to use my jewel tool here and just add a drop of liquid adhesive and then adhere my jewels in place. While that's drying, I'm going to prepare my card base. This panel is cut to 8 inches by 8.5, and I've scored it at 4 inches down the center. So that perfectly mats my card, and I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive directly to my card base since those jewels are in place and we don't want those to pop off. So after I've added adhesive, I'm just going to add my card panel, and then that finishes my card. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for stopping by. Take care and bye.